It's been 4 days since the wildfires broke out in Los Angeles, the most devastating the city has ever experienced. Right now, the news coming from the fire teams trying to put out the worst fires in the Pacific Palisades and north of Pasadena in the hills of Altadena. Well, they're still out of control and the wind has changed direction, posing a new challenge. In the midst of this, more than 140,000 people are dealing with the reality of having survived the fires after being evacuated. Some have no home to go back to. Others, well, who do right now are talking of their fear of the fire spreading, all the threat from looters, with a curfew underway to try to reduce the risk. We're getting live images at the moment from the hills of the Palisades. You can see the smoke still rising, the extent of the fires that are still out of control there. We've also seen anger today, people talking about that the homes of the rich and famous have been prioritised, they claim, by the less well-off, and rows to a blame game starting. So let's go to Wassim Cornet, our correspondent in Hollywood, who's covered the fires since the outbreak. Wassim, great to talk to you. First of all, talk to us about what's happening, what you've seen today.
Well, the picture behind me says it all. I mean, you can see the smoke, acrid black smoke, still pouring from the hills of now Santa Monica Mountains, from spreading into Brentwood. The good news is that overnight there has been progress made in terms of containment. We are now at 11% containment on the Palisades fire, but that is primarily on the other flanks. So primarily toward places like Malibu, which have been already devastated, toward the western part of the Santa Monica Mountains. I wouldn't be surprised to see some good news in terms of evacuation orders being perhaps downgraded or even canceled in those parts of the fire, on those western flanks of the fire. But unfortunately, this fire is still exhibiting very dangerous behavior and has made a push overnight into the eastern parts toward the eastern part of the fire, toward places like Brentwood, that is also a very upscale community, and in the northern direction toward places like Encino, which is the San Fernando Valley that is north of Los Angeles. Water drops making some progress over in the last few hours, but unfortunately we have seen some new evacuation orders. That includes the world-famous Getty Museum, and also anecdotally, Vice President Kamala Harris has a house in Brentwood. Her location is now currently under an evacuation order. She's not here, of course, presently, but her home is in that area, a danger area.
Very interesting. Brentwood also, a lot of people know it for the series Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where that was filmed, where the property still is. Talk to us about some of the issues that we're now seeing in the aftermath as well. You mentioned before in these reports that a row breaking out essentially between the mayor and the fire chief. Reports denied by the fire chief's officers that she may resign. But we've got water issues, we've got cuts issues, and also a row breaking out politically with President-elect Trump and Gavin Newsom, the governor as well. Just try and bring that together if you can. Some of the big issues that are in the aftermath of this.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fascinating these past couple of days or so to see Governor Gavin Newsom, the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, who have been, showing such a public display of unity in the past few months and years since they both started their mandate, now completely turning against each other, because obviously the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, yesterday launching that independent investigation, that is a direct attack against the city of Los Angeles' leadership. And because there are significant questions that need to be asked. I mean, I was there Wednesday morning in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood with a colleague. We tried to open water at one location's water faucets. There was nothing, and we talked to firefighters, we talked to neighbors who were telling us that they were running into these dry fire hydrants. And so obviously there was a massive demand. That is what we heard from the manager of the Department of Water and Power, who said there was 4 times as much as the usual demand for 15 straight hours, and so the system was completely overwhelmed. But clearly the governor's office, that is not enough in terms of an explanation for them. They also want to investigate why the closest reservoir to the Pacific Palisades, the Santa Ynez Reservoir, was completely dry and out of commission at the time of the fires. That reservoir can typically hold up to 450 million liters of water, and so authorities want to figure out whether if that reservoir had been full, whether that would have maybe given them the upper hand much sooner in terms of fighting that Palisades fire. So lots and lots of questions, people very angry in terms of management. And I want to mention an incident that happened Yesterday, 10 million residents of Los Angeles County, me included, we got an emergency alert message sent twice to our phones telling us to prepare to evacuate. The second time was actually at 4 o'clock in the morning. You can imagine the startle that was, having to check whether that was a legitimate evacuation warning or whether it was a technical issue, obviously adding to a sense of panic to a city already on edge.
Yeah, it's a real concern. I know, also talking to you in the last few hours as well, you know, you're living there, reporting in an area, trying to stay safe. We've heard about the pollution in the atmosphere as well, the difficulties in breathing, the health emergency declared. The other issue that I'd like to talk about is the concern a lot of people living there have mentioned, if their properties are still standing, that the risk of looting, which we often see. Tell us about, you know, what we're hearing, reports there of the extent of that or efforts to stop it.
Yeah, so we haven't heard any new numbers in terms of looters being arrested this Saturday. The latest numbers we have are from Friday. Latest count we have is that 18 people were arrested in both the Palisades Fire and the Eaton Fire combined, and because basically they saw people who were suspected of carrying burglary tools. Some people were arrested and charged on looting charges. One of them was on parole, and he was charged with carrying a concealed weapon. Obviously, it is always a major concern in terms of in the aftermath of a disaster, especially in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood, which is such an upscale neighborhood in many parts. I can tell you that Wednesday morning, just a few hours after that fire had broken out, we were driving down the neighborhood to try to get some footage and try to gauge the situation, and all of a sudden a police car just swerved in front of us and stopped right in front of us to block us from going anywhere, and they got out and asked us for our ID to make sure that we were actually there for a legitimate reason and not there acting suspiciously. So authorities clearly taking the threat in a very seriously. We'll have to find out in the next few days if there were any attempts. I can tell you that last night, leaving the Brentwood area, I saw that there were 4 people handcuffed and pushed against a wall with a lot of police activity surrounding them. Whether they were actually charged and whether they were just police trying to verify their identification, whether they were ultimately released, that I do not know. But clearly, again, this police taking this threat very, very seriously.
Wassim, great to talk to you. We'll speak to you in the coming hours as well. Wassim Cornet, our correspondent in Hollywood.